evening, dear viewers. You're watching RTD's English News Edition and take a look at our major stories. The Somalian president is in a working visit in Djibouti today. And this morning as well, the head of state presided over the 20th meeting of the Ministers' Council. Those are the top stories, and thank you for joining us in RTD. Somali President Mohamed Farmajo arrived today in Djibouti for a working visit. The Somali president was greeted on arrival at the airport by the Foreign Minister Mohamed Ali Yusuf, the members of the government, and the high civil and military personalities of the country. The Somali president's visit to Djibouti is part of his regional tour with leaders of IGAD countries. President Farmajo, who came from Addis Ababa, where he had a similar meeting with the Ethiopian Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn, is conducting a series of political consultations devoted to regional security. And this 10 days after a deadly attack in Mogadishu, which left more than 600 dead and wounded, Djiboutian troops alongside AMISOM troops conduct with honor and dignity security and stabilization operations in Somalia, especially in Hiran region, in addition to the training provided to the soldiers and officers of the Somali army. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, received today, late in the morning, at the Presidential Palace, his Somali counterpart, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, on a 24-hour working visit in Djibouti. The one-on-one meeting between the two heads of states is the highlight of the visit of the Somali president in Djibouti. In addition to the bilateral issues, discussions between the two heads of state focused on security issues. Djibouti participates since 2011 in the mission of peacekeeping of the African Union in Somalia, AMISOM. Since the collapse of the Somali state in 1991, Djibouti has spared no effort to help the Somali brother people out of the impasse. The President Ismail Omar Guelleh landed upon his accession to the Supreme Magistrature in 1999 as a fervent craftsman of the return of peace in Somalia and the return of this country to the concert of the nations. And right after the meeting between the two heads of state, an extended meeting was held between the two delegations after an extended working session for the delegations of the two presidents. The current stay of the Somali head of state in Djibouti is part of a tour began 2 days earlier. He is making with the contributing countries of AMISOM, the African Interposition Force in Somalia. It is a tour dedicated to the mobilization of redefined strategic military and security objectives in Somalia as a continuation of the recent deadly attack and destructive consequences never experienced before by this brother and friend country. During his visit to Djibouti, the Somali head of state is accompanied by a high-level delegation from his country. The latter includes the Minister of State for Defense, Muhammad Ali Haga, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Garat, the advisor to the President of Military Affairs, Bashir Mohammed Jama, and the President of the Defense Commission in Somali National Assembly. The Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Somalia to the Republic of Djibouti, Abdurrahman Abi Hussein, took part in the extended meeting of the Presidents of Djibouti and Somalia as well. On the Djiboutian side, the Minister of Defense, Ali Hassan Bardon, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, the Minister of Health, Dr. Jamal Miokie, the Chief of General Staff of the Djiboutian Army Forces, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, and the Ambassador of the Republic of Djibouti to the Federal Republic of Somalia, Mr. Hassan Aden, attended the meeting between President Gili and his Somali counterpart. After the meeting between the two heads of state, the President of Somalia told the press in an interview that he is looking forward to the welcome given to him and his delegation that accompanies him in Djibouti. My second country as part of this visit, he said in information to the press after his talks with President of the Republic. I wish to express here my sincere thanks and the full recognition of Somalia for the fraternal people and states of Djibouti who have recently provided us with valuable assistance following the terrorist attack on our country, assures Turkey medical professionals and important medical equipment that Djibouti sent to Mogadishu in the aftermath of the terrorist attack have saved many lives, he said. We can never thank enough the Republic of Djibouti for its continuing and multifaceted support for Somalia, said the Somali president. And following the meeting between President Gili and the Somali President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo and the extending meeting between the two delegations, the Djiboutian head of state, Mr. Ismail Omar Gili, invited his Somali guests and the delegation accompanying him to an official lunch at the meeting. The atmosphere was friendly during the lunch that brought together the entire delegation accompanying the Somali president and Djiboutian officials. After the lunch, President Gili accompanied the Somali president to Djibouti airport with a strong delegation for a 24-hour working visit. The Somali president is staying in Djibouti as part of his two-day tour to the contributing countries of AMISOM, the African Interposition Force in Somalia. The aim of this tour is to popularize the strategic, military and security objective redefined in Somalia as an extension of the recent deadly attack in destructive consequences never experienced before by this brother and friend country. And moving on with the other national news, under the chairmanship of His Excellency Ismail Omar Gili, President of the Republic and head of government, took place on Tuesday, the 20th session of the Council of Ministers. At the beginning of the meeting, the Council of Ministers expressed its solidarity and compassion to the Somali government and people afterwards to the deadliest terrorist attack in the history of Somalia on 14 October 2017. Let's watch this video.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sous la présidence du chef de l'État, son Excellence M. Ismail Omar Guelleh, s'est tenue la 20e séance du Conseil des ministres en ce mardi 24 octobre 2017.
Under the chairmanship of His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh has been held today the 20 sessions of Councils of Ministers. At the beginning of the meeting, the Councils of Ministers expressed their solidarity and compassion to the Somali government and people afterwards of the October 13 deadliest terrorist attack. Facing the consequence of these attacks that have taken the lives of many innocent people and destabilized the Somali nation, the Council today has reaffirmed our country's commitment to continue the effort to support the Somali people. In this regard, the entire government has decided to respond to the call for solidarity and urge the Djiboutian people to mobilize and participate in the momentum of solidarity of our Somali brothers. After this call of solidarity, the following bills were on the agenda. The first question was about the 2017-18 University New Year's entry. The Minister of Higher Education has made a communication on the academic year, which was held in good conditions with a significant increase of the numbers of students. He said that since its inception, students' enrollment has increased from 461 in 2001 to 9,968 students in 2017, divided to over 7 faculties The university has undertaken many actions and has constantly strengthened its capacity to meet the challenges of quality with a critical mass of qualified teachers, researchers. He highlighted the importance of the action accomplished in particular to increase the supply of training and to respond to the country's socio-economic demand in high-level framework. The second question concerned a draft law from the Ministry of Agriculture in order to approve the financial account of the Djibouti National Office for Water and Sanitation, also known as ONEAD, for the 2015 financial year. The provisional account of the National Office for Water and Sanitation for the 2015 are discontinued in product at the sum of 5.1 billion Djiboutian francs to an overall net income of 270 million Djiboutian francs. In 2017, the establishment carried out modernization and renovation work on drinking water and sanitation facilities intended to increase the production of drinking water. In particular, the construction of pipeline and connected to Ethiopia. Thus, the establishment has acquired technical and material equipment. The volume of water produced in 2015 was about 3.9% higher than 2014. In 2015, the office has performed its mission in the best condition in order to effectively meet the growing demand for water. The third question was from the Ministry of National Education. It was about a draft decree for the creation of a single framework and partial amendment of decree on the special statute of the civil servant, a draft decree on the definition and conditions of access to the single framework of the national education teachers, and a draft decree fixing the benefit and allowances of the inspectors of the national education and vocational training. The Minister of Education presented 3 draft decrees. The first project aimed to create a single framework for the national education that will cover all the level of education. This project aimed to create a unique national framework to respond to the strong growth of graduate teachers. The purpose of the second project is to set the terms and conditions for granting access to the teacher's single framework. This project introduced the quality required and described the procedure for access to this single framework. And the third project deals with the benefit and the allowances of the national education inspectors who are responsible for ensuring the implementation of this framework. The national education policy will evaluate the work of the teaching staff and will advise them.
Then the Ministers' Council has focused on the draft decree on creation and organization of the National Council for Child, among other projects. Let's listen to him.
La sixième question est relative à un projet d'arrêté.
The fourth question is a draft decree from the Ministry of Women and the Family Planning amending the creation and organizations of the Child National Council. The purpose of the drafted decree is to amend certain provision of the decree establishing the National Council of the Child. The National Council for the Child is a body of supervision and control for the implementation of the National Action Plan for the Child in the country. This body measures progress in the field of children's, identify gaps and obstacles, and propose policy and strategies. This drafted decree aims to strengthen the promotion and protection of the child and ensure the full powers of the Council. This project will enable the Council to participate effectively in improving the legal, social, and economic environment necessary for the development of the Djiboutian child. The fifth question is a drafted decree from the Ministry of Budget allocating a parcel of land to the Ministry of National Education. This parcel of land is intended for the establishment of a training center. The objective of this project is to enable young people to have a qualification that will allow them to facilitate their professional insertion in the economy of the country. The building sector being endowed with a strong potential of job creation. The Ministry of Budget is also allocating a granting parcel of land to Hamdani Company. The purpose of the proposed bylaw is to allocate a parcel of land located in the Farahat sector to Hamdani Corporation. This parcel of land is intended for the implementation of a real estate project. The adoption of this project is part of the development strategy of real estate development and reflects the government commitment to enabling every citizen to have decent housing. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs reported on the process of planning and preparation of the United Nations Assistance Framework for Development Plan, which was held in Djibouti on October the 19th. He also reported on his participation in the Second Economic Forum between the Arab countries and Central Asian countries and Azerbaijan held in Tajikistan from the 15th to the 16th of October. The Ministry of Interior reported on his participation to the 68th Executive Committee session for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees held in Geneva between the 2nd and the 6th of October. The Ministry of Transport reported on its participations in the annual meeting of the World Bank and the IMF held in Washington from the 9th to the 15th of October. The Ministry of National Education reported on its participation to the Conference of Ministers of Education Turkey and Africa held in Istanbul between the 19th and the 21st of October. The Minister of Communication in charge of Post and Telecommunication reported on his participation to the World Telecommunication Development Conference held in Argentina from the 9th to the 20th of October 2017. The Minister Delegate to the Minister of Economy and Finance in charge of trade also reported on his participation to the 20th meeting of the Group Commercial African, Caribbean and Pacific State and the European Union Ministerial Committee, which took place from the 18th to the 20th of October in Brussels.
The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, sent a congratulatory message today to Japanese Prime Minister Jin Abe, following the victory of a large majority of his political family in the legislative election, which was held last Sunday in this country. By means of this majority voted to your political family, the friendly people of Japan are clearly in favor of pursuing your political action at the head of your country, wrote President Guelleh. No doubt this renewed confidence will serve as a new dynamic in your determination to lead Japan to further progress, prosperity and fulfillment, said the head of state. Be sure that you will always find with the government and the people of Djibouti all the assistance necessary to strengthen our relations of friendship and cooperation, he continued before reiterating his warm congratulations to Mr. Jin Abe. The victory of the political family of Jin Abe in the Japanese parliament opens the way for the continuation of the action of the leader at the head of this country for a period of 4 years. Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed received this afternoon in an audience Mr. Etienne Giraud, President and delegates of Sian, in the honor salon of the Premature. The Deputy Chairman of Sian was accompanied by Mr. Stefan Dikam, Secretary General and Treasurer. On the Djiboutian side, Mr. Ali Silai, technical advisor to the Prime Minister, took part in this meeting. The CIAN is a private French employers organization that brings together industrial and service companies as large groups or small and medium businesses that invest mainly in Africa. Currently, the delegation has been in the capital for 3 days to meet the private sectors and local authorities. And this is the first time that senior officials of this organization visit the country, and hence the interest that the Republic of Djibouti has for private foreign operators. And the Deputy Chairman of CIAN thanked the Prime Minister for his hospitality and availability and outlined the purpose of his visit, which is to strengthen the partnership between CIAN and private Djibouti operators to improve the environment of the business in the country. He said that 200 members of the companies in CIAN are working in 50 African countries, make a turnover of about $65 billion, which represents a large volume for the business. My objective, he said, is to promote French companies to invest in Djibouti. He mentioned the opportunities that the country represents in specific areas such as water, sanitation, and logistics as well. He has demonstrated his willingness to convince French companies to invest in steel in Djibouti. I will do my utmost to reserve the current trend of the presence of French companies in the country and accelerate the process of integration of companies, he said. And for his part, the Prime Minister said that today growth in Africa is showing unprecedented dynamism, attracting investors from all over the world, and Djibouti is one of those countries that attract foreign French employers. The President of the Assembly, Mohamed Ali Hamad, received in his cabinet yesterday in the afternoon the Chilean ambassador, Mr. Chemi Shomali. Discussions focused mainly between the President and the diplomats on ways and means of cooperation in diplomatic relations existing between the two brother and friend countries. Recalling that the Chilean ambassador, Chemi Shomali, had made a visit to the presidency in the morning to give him a letter of credence, the President of the National Assembly, Mohamed Ali Hamad, thanked the new Chilean ambassador and assured him of his availability to facilitate his diplomatic mission. And following the tragic attack in Mogadishu on October 14, a tribute ceremony was held 2 days ago at the headquarters of the Djiboutian Olympic Committee. The ceremony brought together the Somali handball team and its president, who is staying in Djibouti in the presence of Secretary General of the Djibouti Olympic Committee, Mr. Faisal Abdurrahman, and Mrs. Saida, President of the Sport Commission. Let's recall that this tragic attack caused several hundreds of casualties and wounded. The Chief of Staff of the National Gendarmerie, Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden, traveled last week from 15 to 18 October 2017 to Amman, Jordan, to take part in the annual summit of Directors General and Commanders of the Gendarmerie and Police with the military status members of the FIEP. During this summit, the heads of delegation of the Directors General and Commanders of Gendarmerie and Police and military status members of the FIEP were received by the King Abdullah of Jordan. The FIEP, acronym for France, Italy, Spain and Portugal, is the Association of Gendarmeries and Police with military status, initially European, which quickly opened to the remains of the war. The FIEP currently has 16 gendarmes and police with military status from 16 countries: France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Romania, Turkey, the Netherlands, Jordan, Tunisia, Morocco, Palestine, Qatar, Ukraine, Chile, Brazil and Argentina. At the end of the inaugural session of this summit held on 16 October, which brought together all the commanders of the member forces during a solemn ceremony, the Djibouti Gendarmerie was officially and unanimously within this association as an observer member. At the same summit, given the global scale of this association, it was decided to change the name. Henceover, instead of the FIEP, the organization will bear the name of the International Association of Gendarmeries and Police with military status. The Djiboutian Gendarmerie, which is the first gendarmerie of Black Africa to join as observer member to this organization. And on the news outside our borders, the US-led coalition fighting ISIL in Syria and Iraq denied on Tuesday it carried out airstrikes that killed at least 22 people around the Syrian city of Deir ez-Zor. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a Britain-based monitoring group, said that 22 civilians were killed in strikes by unidentified aircraft in the Al-Qusur neighborhood in the west of the city, most of which was seized from ISIL by Syrian regime forces backed by Russia. Local officials in Syrian state television said that the coalition was behind the strikes. One local official said that 14 people were killed late Monday in September. Forces loyal to the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who are backed by Russia and fighting alongside Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah militia, seized most of the Deir ez-Zor city after bringing an ISIL headquarters of nearly 3 years on government-held district. The regime offensive against ISIL, backed by Russian air power, is being waged largely on the western side of the Euphrates River and cast diagonally across Deir ez-Zor province. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres arrived in the Central African Republic Tuesday to assess the country's fragile security situation as violence between militia threatens to intensify. Crowds of people braving a heavy rain lined the road from Bangui Airport to the Cairo to greet him in his 4-day stay. The UN chief will hold talks with political leaders in Bangui and visit the southeastern town of Bangassou in one of the wars hit region for violence. He's also expected to meet victims of sexual abuse by UN peacekeepers, part of an effort to address damaging allegations that have hit the blue helmets in several missions. In the run-up to Guterres' visit, Christian and Muslim leaders urged the United Nations to overhaul its peacekeeping strategy, which some have criticized as being too passive. That's all for tonight's news. Thank you for joining us on RTD and have a good night.